Welcome back to the PANDA'S Pet Pampering YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss dog grooming trimmers and whether you need them as part of your grooming equipment. All the equipment mentioned in this video will be linked below in the description box, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to leave a comment. Now let's get started. So first of all, what are dog grooming trimmers? Dog grooming trimmers are lightweight, versatile and usually cordless, smaller equivalents of dog grooming clippers. They usually come with oil, a cleaning brush and a way of charging them, either with a cable or a docking station. So what are the main cons of using trimmers? I find the main cons are that they're not as powerful, so they're not going to be able to replace your clipper. You shouldn't really expect them to. Trimmers are for smaller jobs such as sanitary trims and pads, things like that, faces. You want them for sort of a reach to when you haven't got your clippers so easy to hand, but they're not going to be able to clip a full dog for you. They're just not powerful enough. It's going to be so slow compared to what you'd be used to with your clippers, the speeds that they can get to. You're just not going to find it as easy to use these. On nervous pets, or for instance cats, I find them ideal. But again, I wouldn't try and do a full body clip with a trimmer just because it's going to take you so much longer, and yeah, it's easier to use a clipper in that instance. The other main con that I've written down is that they have a much shorter battery life. So again, you're not necessarily going to want to replace your clippers with trimmers because they're not going to last as long. You'll find you'll have to keep charging them much more regularly than you would a clipper. So yeah, those are the main cons. What are the main pros of using a trimmer? Mostly that they're quiet. They're much better for sensitive pets, for cats, rabbits, things like that. Any animal that might be more sensitive to vibration, especially around their faces. If you've got sort of a cat with mats behind its ears, I would personally reach for trimmers over clippers because I find they're much easier for the animal to adjust to. The other pro is that they're cheaper. Most trimmers come in between about £20 to £200, bearing in mind that a basic pair of clippers starts, say, £150. You might want to sort of have a look and see what you'd get more use out of. But personally, I've found £20 Amazon trimmers have been really useful. I do have slightly more expensive ones. These are the Bravura Wahls. These cost me £155. These are the larger size. There is also a smaller version, which are called the minis, which I believe obviously are a slightly smaller and cheaper. So these are the larger variety. I do use these on occasion if the battery dies on my others, but personally they are slightly heavier, which is good because it means they're better quality, I suppose. They last a bit longer in their lifespan, but I find when it comes to using them, I tend to reach for my cheaper ones. So there's that, but generally trimmers are a lot lighter. So compared to your clippers, they're a lot easier to use in harder to reach places such as sanitary trims. If you've got a really heavy clipper in your hand, you're going to find it a lot harder to get into the areas you need to. Whereas a small sort of light cordless trimmer, it's a lot easier to get to where you need to go. So those are the main pros of these, that they're quiet, they're light and they're cheaper. So comparing the noise between my two pairs of trimmers, these are my Bravuras, as I've mentioned multiple times, I'm sure by this point. These are Bravura, the larger equivalent. You can get a mini one, so the minis are going to be a bit quieter, but this is the sound of these. I'll try and put them near the microphone. So they're relatively quiet. You've got a little bit of a hum, and because they are slightly heavier, the vibration is a bit stronger as well. And then these are my Amazon pair. So again, I don't even know the brand name of these. If you Google them, I'll leave the information below, you'll find that there are lots of different types of trimmers that all look the same, around the same price. So yeah, I think they're kind of knockoffs of each other, but this is how they sound. So they're a little bit quieter. The vibration isn't as strong, which is why I prefer to use these over my Bravuras. So they are quite quiet compared to a clipper. I hope that's helpful as well. So one of the most important things to mention about trimmers as opposed to using clippers is that they use a different type of blade. So whereas with your clippers you're probably using an A5 blade, which means that you'll have a different blade for each length that you want to use, trimmers are slightly different. Trimmers use what's known as a 5-in-1 blade, which looks something like this. Can you see that okay? Yeah. So yes, 5-in-1 blade. What this basically means is instead of having a different blade for each length you want, there are 5 different lengths in this one blade, and there's normally a switch where you can switch between them. The lengths that they use, it's on standard sort of trimmers, it's going to be between a 9 or a 10 blade up to a 40 blade. So you're going from sort of your standard 10 blade that you might use on a sanitary trim to a surgical blade, which is the 40. So you've got quite short lengths, so you're not going to be necessarily using these again for body trimming, but you've got quite a variety of lengths there. That's why these are so useful for things like pads, because you can go from a 10 blade to a 40 blade straight away if you need to. I mean, it's up to you whether you want to use a 40 blade. I personally, on most of my trimmers, I'm between sort of a 10 and a 15, but it does mean that when I want to switch between a 10 and a 15, whereas with my clippers I'd have to switch blade, it's going to take longer, you've got the animal waiting for you, it's a lot quicker to just flick the switch and then be able to trim or carry on with a different length. The main thing with these type of blades is for some of the trimmers they're not removable. For instance, my cheaper trimmers, the blade head isn't removable. So once this is blunt, the whole trimmer is no longer able to be used. Even if the battery's still fine, I'm going to have to replace the whole unit. It was cheap, it was only £20, so I'm prepared to cover that cost. And the blades I've found, because I don't use them so regularly, they're lasting me quite well, but it is worth considering that if you do try and save a bit of money, there's usually a catch when it comes to trimmers. Whereas with my Bravuras from Wahl, the blade is replaceable and it can be sharpened by some sharpeners. But that being said, before you buy a pair of trimmers, I definitely recommend having a discussion with your sharpener as to whether they can sharpen them. It would be cheaper, obviously, to have them sharpened as opposed to buying a new blade whenever you need it, but that is possible, and they're not as expensive as your standard A5 blade, so you might find it's worth just having some spares so that they're ready when you need them. But that's the main difference between trimmers and clippers, is they use a different blade. And it is worth mentioning, the two blades can't be switched, so you can't use a replaceable trimmer blade on your clippers and vice versa. So are trimmers an essential piece of kit to have? I think no, they're not essential. They definitely have benefits, and if I were given a choice of clippers or trimmers, I would always choose clippers, purely because they're going to be able to do everything you need them to do. They can do sanitary trims, they can trim faces, they can also do a full body trim. So they're obviously much more better value for money, I would say. But if you do a lot of appointments with nervous pets, I'd groom a lot of cats, trimmers are my go-to for those appointments. They're a good way of introducing nervous or young animals to the process of having their hair cut. As they're quieter, I find the pets might tolerate the noise and vibration of trimmers first. So sometimes I literally just get my trimmers out just to desensitize the pet to the sound, to the feel, and the vibration of trimmers before bringing out my clippers. The money, I would say a cheap pair of trimmers is definitely worth it. If you're talking £20 for a basic pair of trimmers, then you use them a lot for sanitary trims, faces, pads, they're worth it, definitely. You can't really go wrong. But if you were looking at the more expensive trimmers, which are around £200, you can get a basic pair of clippers for around £250. So you're probably worth, if that's the amount of money you're prepared to spend and you're new at grooming, get the clippers, spend the money on the clippers, because they're your workhorses and they're more of an all-round piece of kit. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, please feel free to give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And thanks very much to all the subscribers that we've had recently. We really appreciate your support. If you do have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave a comment below or get in touch. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.